G'day, fans, and welcome back to another exciting episode where we're just talking stuff. How good is this? I'm with my lad, Mr. Aaron. He's passed the bug, as in, like, literally passed it through himself, and he's now back on his feet, even though he's sitting down at the moment. Mr. Aaron, how are you doing, old son?
Image of me passing the bug now up on my OnlyFans page, like low-level payment to see it. I'm doing much better than last week, Tags. How are you?
I am chugging away quite nicely. There's been a lot of stuff going on in the sci-fi world, so much, in fact, we're struggling to get through it all. One thing I did want to chuck in just recently, it's a slight askew from the sci-fi thing. I actually finally got around to watching The Flash just the other day. And you know what? Because everybody had best bagged the crap out of it, I've got to say, I actually found it quite entertaining, and I actually quite enjoyed it. And to be fair, I don't normally laugh in movies because I'm a bit of a sourpuss, but there was a few moments in this movie I go, that was actually very funny, and I quite enjoyed it.
Well, I liked The Flash. It was one of those things where I didn't understand why it didn't do better than it did, but I guess that's the way the cookie crumbles. There was a lot more drama behind the scenes than was on the screen on that one, I think.
Yeah, and I think that sort of tainted it a little bit. But I actually did laugh when, like Barry says, all the babies are falling from the building. He says, "Oh, it's a baby shower." I found that to be unbelievably funny. And of course, when the lady says when she's burping, "I'm Batman," I just cracked at that. I thought it was ingenious. So I quite enjoyed it, and it was a bit of fun, huh?
Keeping the topic on Michael Keaton Batman. Did you actually see Danny DeVito and Arnold Schwarzenegger presenting? Where they came on and said,
yeah, that was the Oscars. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
Yeah. So if you weren't in the zone and they showed the shot of Michael Keaton, he looked really, really sour, and you go, because he's acting the character. But if you didn't connect on that, you'd be thinking, oh, he's really pissed off about these two guys having a go at him, right? But he's doing the whole thing with the fingers and whatever.
Yeah,
it was all part of the gag. But if you didn't know that, because at the time I'm going, well, he's not really buying into this, because you know what it's like with the Oscars. Someone cracks a joke at someone, not mentioning the Will Smith thing, and it all goes completely askew. So, but yes, it was actually very, very clever. And I did find that I thought, you know what, I really enjoyed The Flash, but I agree at the end, some of the CG superheroes that they showed, some of that was a bit painful to look at, but could have done a better job, but whatever. So there you go. Very, very cool. Absolutely love it. Anyway, so we've got stacks to talk about tonight. Now, normally, as we find in this particular show, one of the topics we're trying to avoid is the old Docky Who, but believe it or not, we can't, because it's the first thing up, Mr. Aaron. What's going on?
Yes, it's one of those things where Disney's dropping 2 episodes of Doctor Who in about 3 weeks' time, the first 2 episodes, and the BBC have revealed the actors who they've chosen to play the Beatles. For those people who don't know, one of the episodes is set in the 60s with the Beatles in. And everyone online is united in how impressed they are that the BBC have managed to uncannily choose actors that look nothing like any of the Beatles at all. What are they doing with that? It isn't even close with any of them. I mean, you said to me, well, there's Howard Wolowitz from Big Bang Theory, and then above him, I think, is Ringo, who looks like it must be played by a woman, following the trends of today. And then the other ones really don't look like the Beatles at all. But the biggest announcement of all, Beatles music is incredibly hard to get into modern shows because of clearances and payments and things like that. And the BBC have announced there is absolutely no Beatles music in this episode either.
Well, the thing is, you're saying the guys don't look like anything like the real guys. I'm thinking, well, of course, I'm looking at this lady here and going, well, she clearly doesn't look like John, Paul, George, or Ringo.
No, you idiot, Dags. I can obviously see that's Yoko Ono.
I absolutely love it. Now, there's a couple of things that have come up in the comments, which I thought was really, really funny. Now, I don't know how to interpret this. Before we got, just so we got started, Guy said he's got his cup of tea and Toblerone and is all ready for our show. Okay, the cup of tea, you don't drink tea, but I do. So is the Toblerone for you?
The Toblerone is to dunk into the tea.
Oh, really? Oh, God.
I don't know.
I never got that. Like with chocolate teddy bears, you stick the teddy bear and you suck the coffee through the chocolate through the body of the. Imagine being the teddy bear, mate. I'm sitting there and they've got this hot fluid running from the bottom to the top. That is going to leave a mark. What can I say?
Biscuits aren't sentient, Dags.
Exactly right. Very good. Karen has said that looks like the Monkeys TV show meets The Shaft. Yes, exactly right. Yeah, I do agree. They haven't even bothered trying to get the guys looking exactly the same. Very good. Are they putting a classical music band in the TARDIS? Oh, there you go.
Monkeys, they are for one episode. I think the one way they could do it and play it into the plot maybe they've written a Beatle-esque song that is to do with the plot and it gets stolen and never released. So there might be an unreleased Beatles song on Doctor Who, but I
Oh,
doubt it.
I got to figure it out. They go back in time, and the four main guys of the Beatles, the real Beatles, they're on the wrong bus, and these other four guys turn up and go, "Yep, we'll turn you into the Beatles," and they become the Beatles. So there you
Yes.
go. See, got the plot figured out already. Very, very cool. Like this from Michael. G'day from 38 degrees in Bangkok. Oh, well, each their own. Hell, yeah, hard luck to you, son, if that's the case. So very, very cool. But love it. Fantastic. All right, so. And the other thing that's coming up very, very quickly, last week we talked about the series Fallout. We gave that a massive review. Already, it didn't take them long. Series 2 has already been announced. The 18 party. I guess that's to be expected, which is particularly cool. So be sure to check that out, fans, when you get a chance. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I did see that enough. Within a week, there were already enough downloads to warrant a season 2. So it must have been pretty popular because sometimes they leave fans hanging for months to know whether there's going to be a new series of something.
Well, it's worth noting when they did the Star Wars Andor series, they renewed it for season 2 before season 1 even aired. So I guess they must have thought, yep, we're on a winner for this one. Rusky Babes has made a good point. It's like that Twilight Zone episode with Elvis, where I think you told me this story, where the fake Elvis goes back in time and somehow or other replaces the real Elvis. And so the real Elvis that we know is actually a fake one, if that makes sense. So
yeah,
I kind of get that.
Yeah, there's a few stories like that in Twilight Zone. There's a Hitler one where they did that as well.
Yeah, that's right. So, yeah, the idea is actually kind of interesting. But yeah, so the Beatles don't look like the Beatles. Maybe they couldn't get the rights right. But yeah, rights. That makes no sense. No, the image rights and all the rest of it. So, but anyway, keep your eyes open for that one, fans. It should be very, very cool. So it's just a day in the life of the Docker, of the Docky. Love it. Very, very cool. All right. The other thing that's coming out, by the way, this is a bit of self-promotion. I'm going to plug myself on this one. And for those who don't know or don't give a rat's bum, a new Star Trek, the part 3 of the Star Trek, retro sort of action figures from Playmates came out yesterday. That was actually produced by Sci-Fi Zone. And both you and myself had some input into this, which is particularly cool. Now, if you like or don't like Star Trek action figures from the 1990s, it will bore the bejesus out of you. But if you do like that part of history, be sure to check it out. It got released yesterday, Mr. Aaron. How good is that?
Yeah, also announcing Dags plugging himself is on his OnlyFans page at a small cost to view. I've watched this. I think it's the best of the 3 parts that have been put together so far. I'm very impressed. Anyone who's into Star Trek or toys should definitely check it out.
It's very funny. When you said about me having an OnlyFans page, just the thoughts of Toblerones came into my head for some reason. What's the deal with that? These aren't the Playmates you're looking for. Well, you're in Bangkok there, Mr. Michael, so I can completely understand where you're coming from at the moment, which is very, very groovy. But the most important thing, now we're going to plug this week and next week as well, so get ready for your fans. If you're not interested tonight, deal with it because you're going to get it next week as well. Mr. Aaron, you have your May the 4th free comic book day coming up.
Well, this is incredible, isn't it? Because there's a few big events on the geek calendar that everyone needs to be aware of. There's May the 4th, which is Star Wars Day. We usually have a sale or do an event for that. There's also Free Comic Book Day, which is the first Saturday in May. And the stars have aligned. There's a conjunction. To come into the shop, you need one of those visors so you don't look at Chad directly and burn your retinas. But they're both on the same day this year. So we're running the May the 4th Star Wars Day for the weekend and the Free Comic Book Day. And we're opening upstairs with a room full of comics. And we're giving away freebies because it's Free Comic Book Day. But because it's Star Wars Day, there'll be some Star Wars freebies in the bag as well. So if you are going to do a comic book crawl to try and get all the different free comic books, don't come to us because we haven't got the new ones. But what we're doing, we're going through our back issues and we're giving away a Marvel, a DC, an Independent, some Pokemon cards, some Marvel cards, and a couple of toys in every bag, absolutely for free.
Tell you what, I need a gif of mine blowing, like someone's head physically exploding, like from District 9 or something, because that is just blowing my mind. And this is the cool part. So May the 4th is on the Saturday, and Colin from Austrek has said they've got a meeting that same day too. So if you want to be the anti-wars person, go to a Star Trek fan club meeting. Just sit amongst all these Star Trek fans and explain why you hate Star Wars that much. So I like the sound of that. What do you reckon, dude?
Well, I reckon there's a Star Trek meeting on just about every other month. So just come to our event instead. Sorry, Colin.
You just go to the store first in the morning, buy up beer, get your free comics, and bugger off into the Star Trek meeting later in the afternoon. Just go, oh my God, look at this crappy stuff that I got for free. No, seriously, it should be absolutely good fun. And for those who are watching the show and going, well, this is all well and good, but we're the Ken Hell's Aaron's Collectibles. Most people know this, but if you don't know it, it's Shop 3, number 1 Main Street in Blackburn in Australia. So, yes, it should be a very, very groovy. What can I say, Mr. Aaron?
Coming to coming to Phuket and Bangkok soon.
I was going to say, I thought you were going to say food court. I was like, what? No. Yes, exactly right. I don't know if I shared this story last time. If I did, I was going to say, fans, stop me, because you clearly can't, because this is we're going live. But there was a situation at the store a couple of weeks ago where Aaron is working all day. He finally says, I'm going to go get some lunch. He stands up, and just as he stands up, a dude walks in, starts talking to him straight away. And of course, Aaron didn't get to have his lunch. Or you eventually got your pizza, but then you had all these people talking to you, and the damn thing went cold, which I'm going to admit brought me a lot of amusement. I've got to say, I thought it was kind of funny.
Yeah, you were in the spare room eating your lunch, laughing at me.
I was indeed, I've got to say. And I agree, Colin, there's plenty of time to attend at both events. So do that, which is a very, very groovy. All right, we actually do have some actual news to present. This one, I think, got announced last week. If I got this one wrong, please tell me. Good old Marvel, all right? The MCU has been mucking around since the late 2010s, whatever it was, 2009, 2008, whatever it is. Phase 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, blah. In recent years, as we've sort of discussed in this show, they've kind of gone a bit down the gurgler a little bit. And all of a sudden, I think it was at phase 4 and 5 or whatever it is has been announced. And there is a stack of stuff coming out. And I don't know about you, and we're going to discuss it in a sec. I can look at this and go, well, I'm sure not all of those are going to be a massive success. There's going to be a couple of turkeys in there somewhere. Mr. Aaron, what do you reckon? Talk about an overload or what?
It is looking like an all-you-can-eat Thanksgiving buffet, isn't it? But look, the thing with Marvel is when they started up, I do think they weren't everybody's cup of tea. And then as they went along, they were must-see. Everyone went to all the Marvel movies that came out, and there was a better strike rate of good movies to bad movies. But over the last couple of years, I think, with most franchises, we have discussed this, they hit their peak and they're sort of on their way down again. And this doesn't really give me a lot of confidence that we're going to be seeing anything like up there with Infinity Wars, Endgame, and that kind of stuff. But that said, I'm never going to knock any fantasy or science fiction movies that are coming out, because I think for every movie, someone's going to love it. And I grew up in a time where we didn't get a lot of that kind of stuff. So I'm just happy that they're making them.
Yep, totally agree. I agree with this one from Karen. Yeah, Karen, you have to tell me, am I pronouncing your name right? I don't know if it's Karan, what? I'm just going with Karen at the moment. Feels like Marvel is dead, but the Deadpool Wolverine trailer looks okay. It did look okay. I did have an issue, though, with all the F words for a trailer. I mean, that's accessible by children. So I didn't get that. I understand the movie can have all the swearing, but in the trailer itself, and I thought, there's got to be a limit at some point. That's getting a little bit. That's the one thing I took from it. But yes, it did look good. Trailers always do. It's an interesting mix of the two characters.
You've got to realize we're in a world now where the Wiggles are doing over 18 gigs.
Well, there you go. Can only wiggle so much. Can only wiggle so much to the youngies. Is that right? Oh dear. Yes. It was a Shang-Chi too, didn't it? I don't know. I agree with you. I mean, there's a lot of material. Some of it's going to do better than other material. And at face value, look at the logos and you go, oh, that's awesome. It's fantastic. But of course, you got no idea who's in them. If any of them have even hang on, start again. If any of them have even been written yet, it's a mouthful, or where it's going to go. So, but I agree. There's plenty there to play with. Some things will appeal to people. Some things won't. But I certainly feel that if someone's going to look at this 10 years from now, when these movies are going to keep going till 2032 or whatever, the golden age will probably be in the 20-teens, if that makes sense. So, but anyway, yeah, good on them for doing it. So,
yeah,
yes, can't be any worse than their current status, which is all a bit sort of all over the place. But and I guess the DC guys are looking at that, thinking, well, we're going to remake Superman, which I read about last week, and go, oh, not again, and I don't know.
Yeah, I think Marvel dropped all their movies for this year apart from Deadpool, because I think they're trying to consolidate and try and get back on track. But we'll just see what happens, I guess.
Totally agree with you. Anyway, watch this space, as they say. But in the meantime, let's go backwards in time, because guess what turns 40 years old this year? Good old Dune, which is really interesting that this is, and now there's a reason why I'm bringing this up, not because of the fact that it's its 40th anniversary. But Dune has turned 40 this year, and you go, well, who cares? No one really does give a rat's bum about it. The new movies have come out. the world is fantastic. But it turns out the thing's getting a re-release in the cinemas. And this isn't Australia. This is somewhere in the US, right? So for a couple of days, for its 40th anniversary, the 84 movie from David Lynch, which I absolutely adore and you love, is coming back. And I've got to admit, that's a pretty cool thing. I mean, I don't know if it's going to pack out the cinemas or be like, what do you call it, tumbleweeds rolling down the aisles. But good on them for doing it. Someone has said there's a market for this movie that no one gave a rat's ass about 4 decades ago, but suddenly there might be a bit of interest in it. What do you think?
Well, revivals are always fun because it means you get to see some of your favourite cult classics in the cinema. I've seen Dune in the movies twice, but not for over 20 years, I don't think. The last time was at a Valhalla, which is now the Northcote 24-hour movie marathon. So that's going way back. I've always loved the original Dune because I saw it at such a young age. I wasn't critical when I saw it. It was just an awesome science fiction movie. And then as you grow up and you see it and you understand the story, it's something that grows on you. Now, I don't think you would argue with me that the original Dune is quite flawed, but it is still an awesome movie.
Oh yeah, I absolutely adore it. And when we did Con 80 in 2017, the convention that was all about 1980s movies, as part of the programming, I specifically wanted a Dune panel. For 1 hour, I just wanted to talk about Dune, right? And I actually thought there'd be no one there. And half the convention, if not more than half, most of the convention turned up to watch it, as in watch the discussion. And I had a bit of a presentation and whatever else. And I thought, well, clearly I'm not the only one who thinks the same way. I mean, it's got its positives and it's got its negatives, but it's still an interesting part of history. And that really sort of made me feel quite good about it. And of course, even today, I'm still a huge fan of it. But I like this line. It's about to get a major reappraisal. I thought that's an interesting way of looking at it. And history has shown sometimes how some films, when they first come out, get absolutely canned. And it takes decades for them to finally get an audience and for people to realize it wasn't as bad as what they remember. And even though there's a lot of stories about the film, we had a lot of struggles. David Lynch disowned it after the special edition came out and whatever else. I agree with you. It's still a movie that's going places. And I'm just really respecting the fact that it's found a new lease of life, which is kind of ironic because the miniseries that was made in 2000 and 2001 with Children of Dune, that's just been forgotten. Everybody's just forgotten that like it didn't exist. It's like the new Denis Villeneuve films and the 84 Lynch movie, and that's it. There's nothing else. And with that in mind, one of the reasons why I brought this up today is because they're producing a new Blu-ray edition hard case with all this stuff. Holy guacamole, there's like documentaries everywhere and there's like featurettes and all the sort of business and images about the models and all the rest of models and miniatures and the costumes. That is groovy, dude. What do you think?
Well, it is one of those movies that I really do think they needed a definitive making of documentary on. So this is fantastic. I think even I myself get shocked sometimes when I find something on Dune that I didn't know. I think maybe a month ago I sent you a link and said, hey, have you ever seen this scene before? And a new deleted scene appeared, which was quite a good one, I thought, which I had didn't even know existed, and it was up on YouTube, of course. But I really am looking forward to this release of Dune. I don't buy a lot of DVDs because I just don't, have the room and, but this one is a must-have, I think. I think you'll get it too, won't you?
I'm thinking about it. I've already got multiple copies of the damn thing. I mean, I'm more interested, not because of the collectible side, but I like to see the other material. What? Oh, you've got a very good. And I'd like to sort of see what they've got on it. But I'd like to think if they've got a making of featurette, that it's a proper retrospective look at it, not just an absolute shit can of the whole thing. But with a bit of luck, it's all very, very good. And
so does it have how many cuts of the movie does it have on it?
It has the two. So it has the theatrical version and the extended TV version. That'd be the 3-hour version. That's the one that made Lynch. Huh?
Have they gone and improved the effects on the TV version, or is it as is?
I've got no idea. That I don't know. Hopefully they did. So for those who don't know, when they did the TV version, they got a lot of the deleted scenes and put them back in, but they didn't do like the blue and then the blue eyes for the Fremen, which is kind of like really stood out. So you get like blue eyes, then normal eyes, and back to blue eyes and whatever else. And they remixed a lot of the audio. It was just for TV, so it was just meant to be a one-off screening. Yeah, that's what a TV version is. But then it found some legs, and here it is today.
Well, I read a story once, and I don't know if it's apocryphal or not, but David Lynch hasn't washed his hands of it, and they approached him at one point to go and recut the theatrical version into more of what he had as his director's cut, and he said no, not because he didn't want to do it, because he said, how much am I going to get paid for this? And they said, oh, you're not getting paid for it. And then he said, and how much money do I get to do, update the special effects? And they, oh, no, we're not doing that. So he basically walked away for it because they wanted him to do it for free and they weren't going to do anything to give him budget for a cleanup. So had you heard that?
No, I hadn't heard that. Although what's interesting is like with this Blu-ray edition, we were talking like the other week about the death of physical media. Good to see it's just hanging. Wouldn't it be funny if Dune was the last release? The Sleeper Has Awakened. It's like the last DVD release or Blu-ray release ever. Guy said he loves Dune. Totally agree with you. Rusky Babe said it was the Reader's Digest version. Kind of had to be, considering it was the film was shortened down and there was a fair bit that they had to squeeze into it. So we totally get that. Patrick Stewart's anecdote, not knowing who Sting was, he thought he was a police officer. Boom tish, I love that. So, yeah, which is very, very groovy. So, so keep your eyes open for that one, fans. And for those who are interested, a bit of a self-plug once again, okay? I did actually, hang on, just rewind it. For those who didn't know, when David Lynch didn't get on board with the film, one of the things he wanted to do, because he's a bit of an auteur, was shoot the movie in black and white. And of course, the dealer renters at the time, the producers said, nope, that's not going to happen. So they did it all in color, even though for the most part, the thing is just blacks, whites, and yellows for the desert. Very, very boring from a color perspective. So I put together a video, which I released on YouTube called What If Dune was produced in black and white, and give some examples of how it would have looked. If anybody's interested in looking it up, you need to do a YouTube search for this. You have to actually get the name right. Otherwise, if you just say Dune in black and white, there's a million frigging videos before you get to me. But I do actually ask, would it have worked? Because he made a Razorhead and Elephant Man in black and white. Would Dune have worked in black and white? And I show some samples of it in color grade. Only goes for 5 minutes. If you have a moment, I highly recommend you check it out. But you've got to type in Dune in black and white. Would it have worked? Sorry, dude.
We can start a rumor that the black and white sections on the Harkonnen home planet were a homage to what Lynch originally wanted to do.
Totally agree with you. I absolutely love that too. Well, you could actually say that too. Absolutely. All right. Stupid. Any questions? Easter eggs in the new Dune? And the new one. Not that I can remember. I've only seen both movies once.
When I watched them, I actually looked out for anything that was a nod to the old movies, and I really didn't see anything. I would have loved to have seen like a Geiger Harkonnen chair or something like that in the background. Would have been pretty cool, but I didn't pick anything up, and I'm usually really good at that.
Yeah, I don't recall that myself. I like this one. Yeah, just watch it. Oh, sorry, one. Just watch it on a black and white TV. Yeah, black and white television. What the hell's that? So there you go. Yeah, I don't know. Not off the top of my head. It's probably like when they did the Star Wars sequel trilogy, they just avoided everything from the prequel trilogy and just didn't include anything. I think the answer would have to be yes, but I don't know where. I can't think off the top of my head. It's a good question, though, I've got to say. Well done. And if that doesn't work for you, fans, you can go, oh, I'm sick of Blu-rays, I don't want to see it in the cinemas, blah, 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 whatever. This is where you need to go. It hasn't been announced, it hasn't been launched, but it could eventually happen. And of course, it's this Australasian Dune Guild. Well, Mr. Aaron, tell us how cool this particular fan club is.
Now, this is a fan club that Dags joked about, and then we decided we would launch ourselves and run and be the executives. All you have to do is send us piles and piles of spice, and you can become one of our inaugural members in the Dune fan club.
Absolutely love it. So for those who can't read it, it's a fan club beyond your dreams, membership fees beyond your imagination. We do include live cat milking, and we get to eat a cow's tongue, and of course there are some midgets. And the most important thing, fans, is that your water shall mingle with our water.
Again, on our OnlyFans page. The other thing we have done, if you can be bothered searching it out, we did do a rip it off the card on all the toys from the Dune movie, which is quite a good episode if you love that kind of stuff.
Absolutely love it, which is very, very cool. But yeah, it's the Australasian Dune Guild. When Aaron put that together, I thought that is just absolutely awesome. So very, very cool. So if you're still a fan of the 84 movie and it's 40 years old this year, I think it's later this year, it turns its official birthday. Don't celebrate it by milking a cat or eating a cow's tongue.
Do you know what happens when you're about to attend one of the guild meetings?
What?
They actually have to give you a 2-page printout to explain what's actually going to happen at the meeting when you actually attend.
Absolutely love it. Don't forget the beginning is a delicate time, so or a very delicate time. Very good. He still has his June pop-up book as one should, which is a very cool. All right, so that's enough for June, right? So it's absolutely fantastic. Now, a few weeks ago, we showed or discussed there was a series that's being produced by Zack Snyder, a series of movies called Rebel Moon. Effectively the Seven Samurai or Battle Beyond the Stars in a completely different environment. I think we said at the time, most people agreed it really wasn't much chop, but it looked good and it sounded good and whatever else. Well, anyway, the sequel came out last week. So once again, it's Rebel Moon 2 Scargiver. We've only got about 10 minutes to talk about this, if that. We're just going to cover this off quickly. For those who have seen it, there's going to be spoilers and whatever else, or haven't seen it. So just be aware of that. Now, Mr. Aaron, you haven't actually seen Rebel Moon Scargiver, is that right?
No, unfortunately, with time constraints and so much stuff coming out, I haven't been on top of it. So the best thing is no spoilers from me.
Very cool. So for those who have seen it, right, or sorry, let's start again. For those who haven't seen it and are wondering what's the deal, who cares? Does anybody really worry about it? What I would say to you is that when I saw it, because it was I watched it on Tuesday. I put headphones on. It really came across as a modern high budget B movie, right? It is unbelievably transparent to work out. These are the good guys, these are the bad guys, right? And it's as simple as that. There's no real mixing of the two. And the coolest thing about the entire film is it has this enormous battle scene, like absolutely big ass, right? There are bombs going off and explosions and dudes getting shot and heads getting blown off. And I loved it. I thought that part was really good. The story is unbelievably simple. You don't have to think about anything. You can just switch your brain off completely. And unlike Dune, funnily enough, as in like even the new movies where you really got to concentrate over all these factions, in Rebel Moon, good guys are on the ground, bad guys are in space, problem solved. Problem solved.
Well,
And for that, it's a visual treat.
I do have to ask, and you've preempted me. The last scene of part one, which I have watched, was the Sir Anthony Hopkins robot turning up with reindeer ears on. How does that pan out?
Oh, that is awesome. And of course, he's doing the whole thing. He's doing the Gollum thing. He's hiding in the bushes. He's staying away from everything. But when shit is looking like our good guy's going to lose, the bad guys got their big ass guns. The smoke clears, and there's our dude. Now he's cut his reindeer antlers off because clearly there's a lot of stuff going on. And he goes completely postal. Absolutely loses it. And it's actually really cool. It's actually a really good moment. So I've got to say, visually, it was great. The sound was awesome. I listened to it in headphones. And even though it's really superficial, and a lot of people will probably be critical of the fact that there's nothing to it from just sheer entertainment alone, even though it's a little bit on the dumb side, I thought it was great. So I absolutely loved it. So,
well, I think the thing about Zack Snyder movies, love them or hate them, he has got a visual flair that is unique to him, and he is good at action. It's just, as you were saying, some of the plots don't gel together as well as they could.
Yeah, I think you got to know your audience, and your audience is saying, you know what, I don't want anything complicated. It's clearly not for children, but it's a popcorn film, and for that regard, it's a good sci-fi popcorn movie. You don't have to think about it. Even the first movie is a bit like that. The first movie sets up all the characters, and there's a lot of time doing that. In this, you don't have to. They're already there, right? And it's just a case of, well, the bad guys are coming down to blow up the good guys. What's going to happen? And you just let it just flow out. And yeah, you can predict whatever you want and go, well, this good guy's going to die and this one's going to survive and blah. And for that reason alone, I found it very entertaining, and but certainly nothing that's going to make your brain cells go, oh, I wonder what the twist is going to be in this particular plot. That's
the twist. The twist is there is no twist.
Yes, exactly right. They've done a Dune, and they're going to need to part 3. Yes, I think there's supposed to be 4 or 5 or 6 movies. Zack Snyder's clearly got his whole universe worked out. The thing I find funny about this particular movie is I got no idea who the characters are, right? The names. It's just nothing. The planets, the ships, goose eggs. I got no idea who's doing this.
So. You know, I've found that's one of the things you can gauge a good movie by. If you walk out of a movie and you remember all the character names, I always use this analogy with Aliens and Alien 3. You say, who are the Marines in Aliens? And everyone can rattle off half of them. You go, who are the prisoners in Alien 3? And you're like, well, there's the Goric guy. And beyond that, everyone forgets, unless you've seen it a million times. But I would say the same thing. If the character names haven't even stuck, it is a bit of a switch your brain off movie.
Well, though, if you walked around and going, "Hey, do you know all the characters of Rebel Moon?" I'll tell them all to you. You'd be going, "Dude, what is wrong with you?" So, but yes, it's a good, nice visual treat, and yeah, well worth having a look at because the bad guys are clearly bad and the good guys are clearly good. Just winding the entire conversation back to our Dune fan club, the Australasian Guild. The first, it's a 45-minute monologue as you walk in. And of course, halfway through the monologue, you've got to say, "Oh, I forgot to tell you," just as you fade out, you've got to fade back in again. I was like, whose idea was that?
Well, we
Jen
have
says, "I forgot
we
to tell
have
you." I can't believe it. Sorry?
we have Virginia Madison as the guest, and she's doing autographs, and then she stops doing autographs and fades away, but then comes back and signs the rest of the autographs.
I couldn't believe it when they did that in the movie. Right, she's talking on the screen, yappity yappity yap. Obviously, the auto cues just run out and she's faded away and come back. Oh, dear. But can you recite that entire opening speech? Because I used to be able to do it. Actually, the beginning is a very delicate time. Know then that it is year 10,191. The unknown universe is ruled by the Padishah Emperor Shaddam the Fourth, my father. During this time, the most precious substance of the universe is the spice melange. Anyway, it goes on from this.
In the time before
Nerd.
Monkey, Primal
Huh?
Chaos Reign, Heaven sought order, but the phoenix can fly only when its feathers are grown.
Dude, oh yeah, I forgot to tell you, the spice exists only one planet in the entire universe, a dry and desolate planet with only vast deserts. Hidden amongst the rocks of the people known as a Fremen, who have long held something or other that a Messiah would come to lead them to true freedom. The planet is Arrakis, also known as Dune. Move on. All right, let's go.
And then you get 2 hours of milking cats.
Yes, exactly right. Not eating cow tongues, exactly right. Not electric, but spice streams. Totally agree with you. All right, that's it for all that, right? Oh, got to admit, I'll absolutely love it, which is very, very cool. All right, guess what, fans? After all that Googling, it's now time for something a bit more serious. Take a breath, because it's now time for this.
A question.
Believe it or not, it is actually a serious point that I want to bring up. And I'd be curious to see. Now, Aaron doesn't know exactly what I'm going to ask him yet. And there is a reason why I am asking, because the question I'm going to ask you is this. Will fans want to see perfect, now by I'm saying this, that there's no like uncanny valley or whatever else, digital copies of their favorite actors in the future? And where that's coming from, now there's a lot of examples we can use for this, but let's say, for example, you have actors that you absolutely adore now, whether they be like your Star Wars characters or whatever else, and they can make perfect digital copies, not only of how they look, but how they sound, and they just keep making movies. Like using Doctor Who as an example, if you're a fan of John Pertwee or Tom Baker, they can keep making Doctor Who episodes, and he looks absolutely spot on for years and years and years and years and years and years and years. Is that the kind of thing that you think fans will go for?
Yes, with a qualification, the acting has to be on the same level as the originals as well, because what's the point of bringing back a digital avatar of someone if the acting isn't there? I think what you're going to have trouble with, I think we'll get to the point where there is no uncanny valley. I think you'll get to the point where they can do a perfect replica. Can they ever actually catch the nuances of that actor when they're in a role, though? And that would be the thing for me. Maybe the uncanny valley won't be the looks, but it will be actually the manner of the actor. And I don't think you're going to bring back Humphrey Bogart to do an action movie or something. You only want him to be doing the classic stuff that he did well. And you don't, they could do another Sam Spade movie. And if they did it black and white and of the time, and you couldn't tell it wasn't filmed at a different time, and the acting was at the same level, yeah, I think that'd be fantastic. Sorry, go ahead.
No, keep going.
If you do stuff like bring back Peter Cushing again to do Tarkin, and he isn't in the same, league as he was in A New Hope, you've got a perfect Tarkin avatar, but you can't get him to act the same, then I don't think it's worth it.
So let's assume, let's put the devil's advocate hat on. Visually, you can't tell, right? You just cannot tell. It's like spot on. Vocally, they've got the AI going through the audio. The vocals are fantastic, and they've worked out the acting side. They've got everything's perfect, right? So because at the moment there are some flaws in the system. So let's say you find all that out, and they can do an actor, whether it's a living one or a dead one or a younger version or whatever else, and you just can't tell the difference, right? It looks like they're still here. And I'm intrigued to see whether there'll be a time. Now, use an example. I don't want to be controversial about this, but let's say, for sake of the argument, someone says, "All right, we're going to redo the sequel trilogy for Star Wars with Han, Leia, and Luke as they looked in The Return of the Jedi or Empire Strikes Back, whatever." And you cannot tell. That's just absolutely spot on, right? And they go, "That is such a big success. We'll make another one and another and another." And they're in sequels for years and years, and they never age. It's a bit like The Simpsons. I do wonder if fans would gravitate to it. And the reason why I'm asking this, using this as the Luke Skywalker thing as a very dodgy example, when he appeared in The Mandalorian, despite the fact that he wasn't 100% spot on at the time, the fans went completely apeshit. They go, "Oh my God, Luke is back." He's like, "That is the coolest thing ever." And then, of course, he reappears with Grogu in whatever it was, Mandalorian or whatever, Book of Boba Fett. And I think that there's an argument to be said that deep down, some people would say, "You know what, I would go for it if they can get the acting, the voice, everything spot on, make a million movies or TV shows with their favorite characters and their favorite actors, they'd go for it." That's my feeling.
I think that Luke is back effect is the wow factor on the night, and then when
True,
people
true.
think about it after, let's use Star Wars as an example. When they released the special editions, oh wow, Jabba the Hutt's in it. That's is amazing. Until 6 months later, when everyone goes, "Oh, that scene's not very good. I wish that wasn't in it. I want the original version." The thing is, though, if they got it till they could act and it was like the original and perfect, then there's the ethical side of things. Where is this taking away jobs from modern actors, and what happens with the estate of the people who they are using the images of? I mean,
Yeah, but
that's
that's, hang on, I'm going to cut you off there. Let's assume that that's been covered off. So all the rights have been assigned, right? Because there are actors
yeah,
these days who are getting facial scans and whatever else in perpetuity for their family and all that. So they, even after they've passed away, their image can still be used and the money they make goes to whoever. So we're not talking about the legal side. We're talking about whether the fans, the audience, would go for it. And just as an exception to that, or an addition to that, imagine if you got the entire cast. This is a plucking rabbits out of hats of either the original series of Star Trek or the next generation of Star Trek, and they just make entire new shows with all the cast looking identical to how they looked back then when they first came out. That's where I'm coming. Would the fans, new and old, just go, "Yep, give me more of that"? That's where I was
I,
coming from.
I think they would. I think it'd be a case of you'd have some people go, "That's never going to be as good as the original," and if they, you know, do a couple of episodes that are up there with the Trouble with Tribbles or City on the Edge of Forever, they're going to go, "Okay, I'm totally in on this."
So a few people now, remember, this is still cutting edge, right? So we're looking at stuff that's only been occurring in the past few years. They've done digital actors going right back into Final Fantasy in the early 2000s, but now it's becoming more of a big deal. Christie's dead set against it, which I totally get. Yeah, if you don't like it, I totally get it, Christie. I'm completely with you on that one. I think it's okay for a cameo or brief snippets, but not for a full performance. Yeah, if they did do a full performance with somebody, a digital person, if the audience completely went for it, I'd be curious. When they did Tarkin in Rogue One, you can clearly see that had flaws, but I applauded them for the fact they made him a major character. He wasn't just in it for a moment. I thought, "Oh, that is very
Yeah.
groovy." If they did it today, they'd probably make him look even better, but they've still got a way to go before he
What I would
becomes
really
perfect.
like them to do is bring Jar Jar back as a digital good character instead of the mess.
um, it depends if they can write a script that stays true to the character. Let's assume they can. If the script is not true to the character, then people will redirect it. That's effectively similar to what you were saying. Where are we? It would be weird posthumous actors playing himself in the life story. Yeah, I mean they have used deceased actors before, but it's only now it's becoming a bit more of a thing where actors are preparing for it in the future. And of course, in our lifetime, we're seeing examples of it now where actors that we've grown up with, who we think, "Oh, these are the greatest people ever," are now sort of like starting to fade off into the distance. Your Michael J. Foxes of the world and Bruce Willis's and whatever else. But imagine they could just keep their images and their performances going on forever and for years and years and years. And I am curious to see what would happen, whether people would say there's a brand new TV series coming out, Family Ties 2, if you will. Michael Fox is in it. He looks exactly as he did back in the 1980s. And the stories are great. You can't tell he's fake. Give me more. And I think it'll come to a point where people will actually not be able to tell real from fake, and they'll just really just dial into it. And then when that occurs, modern stuff using modern actors, which is where the issue is, they can't get the job. Well, I can't get a job anymore because all these fake people have taken my employment because that's what the fans want. I don't know.
Well, you look at something like Dial of Destiny. Imagine instead of having a little bit set in the past and the rest of it was old Indiana Jones, you actually got Harrison Ford to record an entire performance as younger Indiana Jones, and then they de-aged him perfectly, so it was a Raiders of the Lost Ark era movie. So a movie that, he was the same age. You've got the original actor, you've got the technology so good that he looks like a younger version of himself, and you've got not like the old broken indie we got in the new movie, but you've got like one that fits in with Temple of Doom and Last Crusade, and it was just like it was filmed the year or two after Last Crusade or something. That'd be really interesting to see why the actor's still alive to give the performance.
True, because where it came from, and this happens all the time. Like Lynn and I will watch a TV show and go, "Oh, that's fantastic! It's great." And you look it up and you go, "Oh, it was made 20-something years ago," and you see the cast in that show and now how they look today. And it is a sad state of life that people age as they get older, and some age gracefully, some don't. But you get to a point you go, "You know what? I don't want to see anything beyond how they look now because they're effectively too old or they've passed away." And I thought, what if you could capture that? Hang on. What if you could just capture that and say, you know what? As a fan, I just want to see all this material made with the people who as I remember them, as I love them, and they just go on as long as I live. So as I get older, they don't get older, yet all the material is brand new. And I think there's something to be said about that as to saying it's living a fake world, but it is Hollywood, it is Tinseltown, and that's what the dreams are made of. Sorry, dude, cut you off.
Well, the other thing I was going to say, do we come from an era where we had the last um, sort of the last hurrah of stars that big that we'd want to bring back? Are there a generation of stars now that are as big as Harrison Ford or Meryl Streep or any of the really big consistent actors we had? I look at movies now and there's good movies, but it's more the movies that drive the popularity rather than the stars. You don't get many movies anymore like we did in the 80s with Schwarzenegger in whatever or Stallone in whatever. There aren't that level of stars anymore. Maybe that's why people want these older stars to come back so much.
True, but sometimes that changes because the actors change. And if the material was good enough, I mean, it's a good point. It really is. But I look at it from the point of view of saying, you know what, it'd be good if you could just freeze these moments in time. Imagine Star Trek, the original series, still continued on to 50 seasons, going on for 50 years, and the cast look identical, even though you can't tell they're fake. Some people, I think, and all stories are completely great and wonderful. I reckon some people would really dial into that because their brains would just adjust to it, and they couldn't tell between real people and fake people. Where are we? There's a few comments here. Hang on. I have to do this quickly. Sad truth is the studios execs will be looking at this as a way to save money, so actor strikes 6 days off. And yeah, you can, but I'm looking at it purely from the audience's point of view. Colin, imagine you could do something like Heir to the Empire. Yeah, that's true, but yeah, you can recast that with anybody because that doesn't exist at any point. If you could do it 101%, I think it would be sustainable. Imagine if they had the tech in the 60s and they just kept making Clark Gable and Marilyn Monroe movies. You don't know, because if they could do it, it could have a whole brand new audience that people go, oh my God, I love these actors from the past that are now in shows today, yet they still look as they did 60, 70 years ago. That's the thing. We just don't know because everything would be updated for the modern audience. Ultimately, you've got to have new actors to replace the old. Yes, you do, but I don't know if you have to have it. We just happen to accept it. This is just the way the world is. And there are some famous characters and actors in shows who give up because they say, you know what, the workload is killing me. A perfect example is the Night Stalker from the 70s with Darren McGavin. He was nearly every scene, and the show got cancelled purely because he said, I'm over it, I can't do it anymore. Imagine they replaced him with a digital version, which he was okay to do, and the show just kept going. It's like, that is awesome. So maybe.
Did you know there's 4 written scripts of the Night Stalker that never got made because he pulled the plug? They wanted to make them. Imagine they CGI'd him and brought that back. It would be like they got the Century 21 records and remade modern Thunderbirds with the original soundtrack from the records that were never made. That's an interesting one because they've updated Thunderbirds, but it's obviously CGI, and I hate it. But it is one of those things. There's a lot of interest in nostalgia in the past, and if you had perfect replicas you couldn't tell apart, there's not a lot of people I think would complain unless the writing wasn't up for it and it actually detracted from the legacy of the original actors.
True. We're going to wrap this up in a couple of ticks. Bring back Marlon Brando. Yeah, that would be an interesting one to see how that works. I agree. The golden age has gone. I totally agree with you on that one, Guy. So, but you do wonder. And of course, we're heading into this territory now where at some point someone's going to do it. And that's a good one. Johnny Depp is the biggest star since the golden age of Hollywood. They were listed. Yeah, okay. So yeah, imagine Johnny Depp as a younger guy from his 21 Jump Street days, still doing new stuff today using a digital version of himself. Someone's going to be first. Someone's going to do it, and it'll set the wheels in motion, whether it works or doesn't work. But don't be surprised if 10 years from now, 20 years from now, it's a bit more of a common thing. So I don't know. Interesting stuff. Because there's nothing worse when you like to think that the actors live on forever as they are, and of course we virtually cry our eyes out whenever one passes away, and you go, "Oh, that's really sad." And you see the in memoriams at the Oscars, and you go, "Oh, Jesus Christ, wouldn't it be great if they could just live on forever as they do on screen?" Sorry, dude, catch off.
The other thing you could do, not just with Doctor Who, but a lot of stuff, you could recreate missing media, because there is a lot of stuff from the past that's gone. So maybe you could get the technology good by trialing remaking stuff that's already been made. And I don't think ethically people would have as much problems with recreating missing material. I mean, everyone knows Doctor Who, but there's a lot of other movies from, I think I read it somewhere, a crazy statistic that there's more movies from the first half of last century missing than actually exist.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me at all. Guy's got an interesting one. Bond movies, all with Sean Connery. Like, he never left; he just stayed around. That's a very good one. And this is the last comment. This is from April, all the way from England or Scotland, wherever you are these days. April, Sean Connery, Roger Moore, James Bond movies slotted in. And you know what? Imagine that. They just kept making Sean Connery movies forever. And you do wonder how that would have worked. So anyway, watch this space. We shall see with great interest how it all goes, but someone will be first, and don't be surprised when that happens. Older fans like ourselves may not. Decades from now, it could be for another generation, whatever's after millennials or whatever, and we'll see what happens. But it could certainly be the case, just as it is with cartoons. So, what do you reckon there, Mr. Aaron?
Yeah, it's a very interesting thing to think about. I'm sure, as you say, one day it is going to happen, no matter what, no matter people want it or don't, someone is going to do it. And then I guess it will be a different debate then once you've actually seen the results.
Totally agree. And I agree with you, Chris. Yes, some people you can't replicate, and Robin Williams would be one of them. Very, very cool. All right, so we're speaking of the movies, right? Now let's talk about real life locations. Now here we go, fans. Now, this is iconic filming locations that you'd want to check out, otherwise known as the geeky getaway. Where would you want to go? Now, this is actually another suggestion from a viewer or someone who came into the store to talk about where would you go if you wanted to go to real life filming locations. And I've got to admit, I get a bit of a buzz when you go to certain websites and they'll show you a photograph from the movie, and they'll show the photograph today of the person standing in exactly the spot where the camera was located, and you're comparing the differences from 50 years ago to today. I find that to be a massive buzz. And to see, I stood here where the characters were, the director was, and the actors and all that. That is just very, very cool. Now, you've been to some location places. I've been to a couple of them myself. Where are the places to go to, Mr. Aaron? Where do you want to go?
Well, that's the problem with a lot of the cool locations. They're all over the world, aren't they? I think I have told you, we've often used, what would you do if you ever won, Tats Lotto? And I said I'd have an endless summer of movie locations where I'd get myself and a couple of friends and we'd go on a jet first class from movie location to movie location around the world. Now, that might seem very shallow of me, but I love the movies and I love TV so much. I think it'd be very cool, and it's a good way to see more of the world than you live in. Of course, it's going to be the genre stuff, I think, that has the best locations for sure. Yes, you can go to the building where Die Hard was filmed and stuff like that, but that isn't the same as standing at Vasquez Rocks where the Gorn fought Captain Kirk, is it?
Well, that's true. And it is a very cool thing. And of course, you got a cool picture here. And I thought, I agree with you. Get your buddies together, go, especially America, and check out all the filming locations. And of course, here's your Devil's Tower. I almost feel like I got to get some mashed potato right now and just carve it out. That is very cool, dude.
Well, the funniest thing about that, we went to a little diner where you could see Devil's Tower out of the window. And I said, I want to order like double mashed potatoes because I wanted to do the recreation. And they looked at me and they go, we don't serve mashed potatoes. And I thought that was the dumbest thing ever. Apparently...
Mate, tell them right in the back, get some Deb, the packet of stuff. Go on.
Well, apparently Devil's Tower was always a national monument that attracted a lot of people. But as soon as it was in Close Encounters, they got 10 times as many tourists, and that hasn't stopped. So I would have thought having mashed potatoes at the diner was a no-brainer, but obviously not. So yeah, Devil's Tower was a location I dragged my family to South Dakota to see, and they sat there going, yeah, yay, we saw a mountain in the middle of nowhere.
That's why you got to take your dudes. I'll tell you a very funny story about what happened with us soon. Karen has said Lord of the Rings in New Zealand was epic. Funnily enough, at least New Zealand had the brains to say, hey, we can market this. And if you even go to some of their parks, this is actually in Wellington, right? In one of their parks, the filming location. You just walk to it. It's just in a public park. And of course, in New Zealand, there's a lot of really cool places to go to. If you like Lord of the Rings, they do official tours and whatever else. Outstanding, which is absolutely awesome. And I think everybody should check that out if they haven't done so already, which is cool. And but there are some things that are like designed for the tourists and other things you just got to know where to go. Now, this one I found interesting, right? I was looking this up today, and this one's a little bit contentious, actually. It's to do with the Planet of the Apes thing on the beach, right? And this is from two different shots from two different people. And you can't argue, are they both the same place, or has someone got it balls up a little bit? So, but yeah, imagine that. You got to go, oh, mate, I just got to go to the beach and have a whack on the sand. It's like, oh, you blew it up. Damn you all to hell.
No, not the world. I've blown the photo up so you can see it clearly. So there are, of course, when you visit movie locations, you have got to be careful. We went to on that same trip. It was a bit of I tricked my family to going around movie locations. We went to Oregon where they filmed Goonies, and the people who own the house where the Goonies are so sick of it that they've covered it in tarpaulin so you can't even get photos from the road. And even the road has signs, please don't come down this road, and if you're a Goonies fan. But apparently it's got bigger and bigger and bigger over the years.
I agree with you. Your thing, they should do mashed potato model building contests every year. Yeah, you think it's clearly a good one to
And the aliens come down and judge the best one at the end of the competition.
Yeah, with a bit of all hand signals. I was going to say one of the pictures I was going to get, and I completely forgot, was Skellig Michael, which of course was Arc-2 in what do you call it, Last Jedi. Apparently, tourism over that place now, which is that island in the middle of Near Island, is just gone completely apeshit in terms of people wanting to visit that. So there are some locations, as soon as they use them in the movies, you go, yeah, the fans are going to go completely nuts hanging out there. And other places, of course, you just think now for myself. We're in San Francisco in 1993, and we thought, oh, mate, we've got to go to this. Apologies for the quality of the pictures, the Monterey Bay Aquarium, because there's features in Star Trek 4, The Voyage Home, with the friggin' whales, right? And of course, back there, you're supposed to be George and Gracie, and that's clearly not the case at all. Well, and I thought, well, you got to stand on the steps where the guys walk down. And to be fair, when I took this picture, I thought, oh my God, Leonard Nimoy and friggin' William Shatner walk down those steps. How good is that?
Well, the picture you had of the ocean, there weren't even any nuclear vessels.
There were not. But yeah, sometimes you look at some locations and you go, that looks exactly as I see it in the movies. And of course, in other times, not even close. But I got to admit, I had a moment. I walked into the Monterey Bay and go, that looks nothing like we see in the movie. What's the deal with that? Oh, geez, unbelievable. What do you reckon there, old son?
Yeah, you've got to go and put the glass paintings in yourself kind of thing sometimes, don't you? It is funny where it is a cinematic thing with how stuff is shot and the lenses they use. Sometimes stuff that looks incredibly grand and scenic on the cinema screen, you get there and you go, is that it? It's not as impressive in real life it is when you see it. But there are a lot of locations that are incredibly impressive as well.
So I'm going to show you this example, right? So we went to Griffith Observatory. Now, this is now fans very quickly out there. Okay, now this is Spankin, obviously. He's excited because he's standing in front of a tunnel, right? Normally, you wouldn't give a rat's bum about this particular tunnel. And to be fair, it's a pretty boring tunnel. Off the top of your head, old son, any ideas where that tunnel might be from?
Back to the Future Part 2.
Yeah, exactly right. So this is just down the road from the Griffith Observatory, which, of course, is hugely famous in sci-fi movies. But Spanker was like, oh, my God, this is the bit where like the old Biff is driving his car and Marty's in the back seat and whatever else. And yes, to be fair, Spankin did actually scrape a tiny bit of paint just off about there somewhere, I think, because he wanted to clear. Oh, my God, it's paint from the Back to the Future tunnel. And I think I got up here, the Griffith Observatory, which, of course, appeared in Rocketeer and Terminator and all these fantastic movies. To be fair, it's just a place. But you can sit there and you go, oh my God, this is where Arnie looked over Los Angeles, and this is where the big Nazis came down and Rocketeer. Oh, I love stuff like that. What do you reckon, dude? Awesome.
I love stuff. I've been there. I've actually had to get rocks and stuff for spanking for locations I've been to. I went to the steps from The Exorcist, the end of the movie where the father falls down the stairs, and Spankin had asked me, can I get like some little stones or something? So I got some from there, some from Devil's Tower, and some from Galaxy's Edge. So I'm one of those horrible tourists that was actually stealing some of the locations for Spankin, and I've just gone and admitted it online.
Either that or you went to your backyard and just pulled stuff up from the grass. So what can I say?
Yeah.
I like this one. Yeah, George and Gracie went into the future. That's why they weren't there. Yeah, love that. Rusky Babes has said, hang on, I've got to do a thing for this. Here we go. Very cool. Where are we? Rusky, On the Beach, which of course is a famous sci-fi movie of the 50s, completely depressing, but a nuclear thing that's just going to destroy everything. Filmed in Frankston, Mount Eliza, Berwick, and the city, and there's an online doco visiting the locations. It is a cool thing, and there are plenty of locations in Australia. I didn't put on the screen, but there's a mention there earlier about Mad Max, and of course, I went out for Mad Max 2, I think it was. They did in Broken Hill. I went out to Broken Hill one time, and it's like a desert. It's like Mars. It's like nothing to look at and go, they made a movie out here. Yay, team. And of course, the new movies are all made in Africa. So for those who didn't know. Speaking of which...
the great Australian one is, of course, they did... I've gone blank. The movie in Cooper Pedy where they left the Pitch Black is what I'm trying to say.
I got the picture of that. Oh, yeah, Pitch Black. They
left the spaceship there, so you can go and see the spaceship from Pitch Black, which I think is pretty cool, and it's good for Cooper Pedy because it's another tourist attraction, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it's better than a big banana or a big this or a big that or whatever else. So there you go. And of course, if you're in Italy, of course, you can check out some of the locations that they filmed for Star Wars, which is particularly cool. Yeah, it is interesting. If you did a tour, and of course there are tours, all right, as we mentioned. So Laser said for Lord of the Rings and whatever else, and of course in America there would be some. I'm sure there would be in England as well. England would be full of locations. How many quarries can you go to for filming a Doctor Who episodes? But it is just a cool thing to go and check out these places. Some of them don't exist anymore. Some of them have changed a lot in their time. But if you like your movies and you like your locations where this stuff was, I mean, where they made The Thing in 1982, you can actually go there because in wintertime it's covered in snow, but in the summertime it's just all ground. And you can actually go along, and there were dudes who went along saying, "Oh, I can still find bits of the set in the dirt because after they filmed in the snow, it just got left behind, and of course it just stayed in the ground." So I reckon that is very cool. But one of the coolest places people like to go to for their Star Wars fixes, of course, is in Tunisia. And the hotels there and the homestead and whatever else. And this is actually a hotel. You can actually go there, probably book rooms and have some blue milk and whatever else. But this stuff is a massive buzz, and there are tours in Tunisia for Star Wars locations, and there's plenty of those. So it's an absolute buzz and a half. And you got to admit, you would have a moment going, "Oh my God, this is where all this stuff was filmed," decades after the fact. That is groovy.
You'd stay in the hotel, and then you'd get up early in the morning to watch the twin suns come up and be incredibly disappointed.
Well, where's the other one? God, I'd have been jibbed. I went to the Empire State Building and they had a statue of King Kong. Well, how good's that? So, that is particularly cool. So, absolutely love it. What do you reckon, Mr. Aaron? And there we go. Yes, even more places you can look at. And of course, I think it's in this one. I think is from Africa, but you can get to the ones near the Grand Canyon in America, and where they film Raiders and whatever else. And you go, oh, that would be very trippy.
Death Valley has Raiders Canyon, which is also where they filmed Jabba's palace scene, like the droids approaching, which I'd love to go to. It's up there with Vasquez Rocks, I guess. But there are a lot of locations I'd love to visit. I'd love in Utah. There's the lake from Planet of the Apes where they crashed the spaceship. I guess, depending on what movies are your favorite, and if you like travel, you can really travel forever looking at movie locations.
Totally agree. And I like this one, right? You're looking at this and you go, mate, who gives a rat's bum about that? And of course, it's Bronson Canyon. The Batmobile used to drive out of that. So it's funny how just this boring thing can suddenly be super cool because of where it is. Which is very
well, here's an interesting fact. Nicolas Cage lived in Australia for a couple of years, so filmed a few things locally. Ghost Rider 1 was one of them. That's littered with Melbourne locations. But the movie Knowing, there's a school at the start of that. That's my son's high school, Camberwell High. They filmed Knowing there. So you watch the movie and like, wait a second, that's just round the corner from where I live. So if you want to go and check out Camberwell High, that's where Knowing was filmed.
That is very cool. And there could be people from America who come out to Australia. I want to come and check out these locations. I mean, to be fair, where they used to film Neighbours at Ramsay Street, which was a court, funnily enough, there was a huge tourist thing there. So people like where shit is done. And as movie TV buffs, we totally get it. And that is absolutely fantastic. And long may they continue to do so, providing they just don't use the volume for everything and just shoot on sets for the rest of their lives. But I agree. I think Devil's Tower is always going to be right up there. For people to say, I've got to go and check that out just to see if their aliens are hanging around, which is particularly cool.
We're just about out of time, but I just have to ask you, if you could go anywhere for one location, where would it be?
No, I can't think of that off the top of my head. I'd have to sit and think about it. I don't know. Most of the places I've wanted to go to, I've been to. I don't know. I would have to really sit and analyze it, but that's a tough one because there are so many that you go just push the buttons. So I don't know. We'll have to think about that. Maybe next week I'll be able to provide an answer, which is particularly cool, which of course brings us to the end of our hour. How about that? So if you haven't done so already, be sure to check out the YouTube, the Sci-Fi Zone YouTube socials and whatever else. As I said, new Star Trek show came out yesterday. Absolutely fantastic. And of course, they've got Aaron's store coming out. Absolutely awesome. What do you call it? Free Comic Monday, Sunday, whatever it is. Saturday, weekends, in the next week or two. But in the interim, if you want to get in early, this is the store you need to check out. Is that right, Mr. Aaron?
Yep. And May the 4th, Star Wars Day coming up soon.
See, May the 4th doesn't work for me. I'm much more of a Revenge of the Fifth person myself. Absolutely awesome. Anyway, we've got to go. Our time is up. I hope you guys have enjoyed the show. We will see you next week. Next week, I can tell you in advance, is going to be all Star Wars because May the 4th is coming up. We're going to go completely to the galaxy far, far away, which is very, very cool. What do you reckon of that, Mr. Aaron?
Sounds good. Look forward to next week.
Love it. All right, guys, party hard, rock on, and we'll see you next time. Okay, take care for now. Bye-bye.
See you.